everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. I'm using my bone phone here. Hopefully cuts down on the background noise since my reefer's kind of humming. So I wanted to throw a short video out about a couple of things, both of them kind of follow-ups. So the first one involves Prime directly. And you know, I did a couple of videos, one when I was home about not being loaded up in a timely manner after I had made myself available. And then the other I made the other day where I had my VAP board and I kind of showed a tale of two loads. But one thing that I didn't mention is that I had reached out to a senior person in reefer operations about the issues that I had when I was home and how long it took me to get a load, and the fact that we were running loads as a team that I could have run as a solo driver. And so I think that email went out over the weekend or maybe Friday, but I got an immediate follow-up. And the person I emailed it to said, hey, I'll follow back up with you on Monday. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, I got to look into this stuff. So this morning I had a call with my fleet manager and an operations manager. And we kind of fleshed some things out. And the short version of this is that they basically agreed with my assessment of how my time is being utilized by the company and by sales and by the dispatch folks, although they're just kind of the middlemen sometimes. But the reason I mention all this is because I think it's a indicia of their reaction is an indicia of one of the reasons I like the company. On two separate occasions I've emailed senior executives at the company about some issues that I had, and both these people that I emailed were, people that have their picture on the company's website. And in both instances I got pretty immediate reaction and then a follow-up where there was a discussion about lots of issues that were important to me. And so I really feel good about that. And there is this saying that, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But the other thing is, as I said on the call today, I kind of believe that if you don't get better every day as an organization, you get worse. There's no standing still. And the reason I believe that is, you go back and look at the history of companies in this country. When's the last time anybody shopped at Sears? Well, it's been a while because they're mostly all closed. But I could tell you that 50, 60 years ago, Sears was the dominant store in America. They didn't sell groceries, but other than groceries, they were the dominant store in America. And if you go back even farther, like 100 years ago, they were so dominant that they even sold houses, like kits to build houses. Although I think I heard somebody say that you could get a kit to build a house on Amazon now. So maybe Amazon's trying to replicate what Sears was doing with their catalog, at the turn of the 20th century. But anyway, I do appreciate that people at Prime are willing to entertain a conversation with a driver, and even a driver who hasn't been there that long, to discuss concerns that the driver has. And I think, those are concerns that other drivers might have too, given some of the comments that I got. So that's one thing. And again, that's one of the reasons I kind of like Prime, is because I can get to decision makers. And I did go above my fleet manager's head because I knew that he wasn't the one responsible for what my issues were anyway. There's only so much he can do. And I just wanted to highlight it. And I should also say that I like my fleet manager. I expressed that to his boss. I think, you know, that's who this guy was. He's up the food chain, up the chain of command. And I said, even when he was like, well, let's talk about this, I said, I just want to preface this by saying that I'm really happy with my fleet manager. So, and that's totally true. I didn't intend to throw anybody under the bus. I just felt like the process could be better. So anyway, that's one thing. The other thing that I want to talk about is automated trucks, self-driving trucks. And I did a video a while ago about that, and I'll link to the video in the description of this video. But there's a company out there that has already done an actual road test with an autonomous semi-truck. So self-driving, autonomous. And, you know, I want to talk about that a little bit. So the company that I'm talking about is called TuSimple. And it's spelled TuSimple, TuSimple. And they are a publicly traded company. Their ticker symbol is TSP. Now, TuSimple conducted about an 80-mile test out in Arizona. I guess it's been a couple of weeks ago now. The truck had police escorts. It had some other support vehicles and stuff like that. But it basically, TuSimple is saying that it was a successful test. The truck was able to operate on the highway around other vehicles, and, you know, there was no pile up with another semi or something. And I just saw an article that said that Wall Street thinks TuSimple's stock is going to basically double in value or go up, you know, like maybe 80%. So I don't know if you want to get in on the ground floor and just go buy a few hundred shares of TuSimple. I think it's trading around $27, $28 a share today. But I didn't really come on here to pitch TuSimple stock or not pitch it. What I wanted to do was actually illuminate an issue that a different industry is having with automation, and that, you know, on a large scale. So there was an article, there's a site called War on the Rocks, I believe. And there was an article entitled "The Unplanned Cost of Unmanned Ships." So if you're not familiar with the Navy and what they've been doing over the past, say, 20 years, you might not know this, or it might not be on your radar. But the Navy has taken extraordinary steps, and when I say extraordinary, you should see dollar signs in the trillions, by the way, to pare down the manning of ships in the fleet. And the example that was used in this article, that's written by two Navy surface warfare officers, one of whom is still on active duty, and the other guy, I believe, is a doctoral student at a prestigious university. I can't remember if it was MIT or an Ivy League school, but anyway, somebody that clearly knows what they're talking about and is familiar with the subject matter. So the LCS class was designed to basically take the place of the Oliver Hazard Perry FFG class. Now, I just happen to have been on an Oliver Hazard Perry class ship. I was on USS Elrod, which is FFG 55. The complement of those ships when they were in service was about 171 personnel. The complement on the LCS is 40 personnel. Now, the premise of this article, and I'm pretty sure it's backed up by empirical data, is that by going to an unmanned or really reduced manned platform, what has happened is that it has actually driven up the costs of maintenance, because a ton of very serious problems on these ships has not been noticed by the crew because they're not paid to notice those things anymore. And when I say major, I'm talking about, power plant, like propulsion, like things that make the ship seaworthy and combat worthy. And the other thing that's happened is even when the sailors are familiar enough to know that there is a problem, the capacity to fix a lot of that stuff has been taken away from them, because the vast majority of even routine maintenance has gone to the what is called the intermediate level or the depot level. So there, and I'm basically simplifying this, but in the Navy, the hierarchy of maintenance was, organizational, meaning the actual ship, the sailors on the ship. Then it was intermediate, which would be like a shore intermediate maintenance activity, or if you were an Airedale, it would be the air intermediate maintenance depot, AIMD. So it'd be SIMA or AIMD. And then the depot level would be a naval air facility if it was a plane, or it would be like a shipyard, right? So, and it could be a private shipyard, naval shipyard, whatever. So what's going on in the Navy, and so they've been at this for, a decade plus, is that a lot of things that would be little problems that would be taken care of at the organizational level become much bigger problems that cost much more to handle at the intermediate level or at the depot level. So let's put that in terms of like trucks. So the organizational level maintenance is me. It's you if you drive a truck, right? We do our pre-trip inspections. Well, in an automated autonomous truck, who does the pre-trip? Well, if it's not the driver, because there is no driver, then you have a piece of equipment that somebody really doesn't have ownership of that is maybe inspecting it. But here's the thing. I did a video one day where I showed where I found a piece of steel that had penetrated one of my trailer tires, and I got it fixed at Outbound, right? It was a trailer I was hooking in Springfield. If I don't have the ownership, the sense of ownership of the piece of equipment that I'm inspecting, do I do as good of a job inspecting it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'm not as diligent. Because, when I look at this truck and I walk around constantly, right? Every time we're stopped, every time we're doing something, I'm looking at it, right? I'm checking airlines, I'm checking tires. Did I lose a mud flap? Do my lights work? All those little things that we kind of habitually, routinely do kind of goes out the window. So if an autonomous truck has its 7-pin cable crapped to bed, but there's not anybody actually looking in that mirror and noticing that the lights are out, who's responsible for that? Is the truck still can get a ticket, right? There's still going to be standards for going down the road. And here's another example. Organizational level recognition of a problem. I had a Freightliner when I was at GP Transco that had a faulty sensor on the coolant tank. Now, I would get an alarm that said, coolant level low, shut it down. But what do? I'm a truck driver. I go out there, I pick up the hood, I look at it. I'm like, doesn't really look low. Got a little gauge in there, right? Little mark on the reservoir. So what do? I get some coolant and I top it off, right? Now, I keep getting this alarm, this shutdown alarm, but I can see what my water temperature is. I can see what my oil temperature is, right? I can monitor other things and determine that it's a faulty sensor, or at least I kind of pretty much know it's a faulty sensor, but I can also interact with somebody over the phone. Now, automate all of that. Does that just shut your truck down on the side of the road? Does whatever's controlling the truck just say, oh, shut down, pulls onto the shoulder, shuts the engine off, and just sits there? And then somebody's got to figure out why one of these autonomous trucks is sitting on the shoulder, 200 miles from its destination. And do you think that's going to be expensive to go troubleshoot in the field without any human beings? Like, you got to send somebody out there? And so where I'm going with this, and there are a number of examples of this. I could give you, like, I heard a belt squealing one time. I immediately got my truck into a shop and I said, hey, I think that tensioner might be getting ready to go. So guess what? After my tractor's in the shop at the company, right, which would be the intermediate level maintenance, the guy comes out, he's like, yeah, I did change that tensioner, put new belts on it. Good to go. Why? Now, don't get me wrong. If it's not if it's an electric truck, obviously I don't have that issue. But my point is that this and my ears, my eyes, my experience, my sense of touch, those are the things that I use to inspect this truck. And I have skin in the game. I don't want to have a blowout going down the road. I don't want to have my windshield wipers crap the bed in the middle of a rainstorm. But autonomous trucks, if they're not, if the operator doesn't have that kind of corporate knowledge, and by the way, it can be built into AI, but I really think that companies are going to find out that they may be spending more money for catastrophic problems than it costs to have drivers driving the truck. Because if you don't have a driver to inspect it, then you have to hire somebody to inspect it. And that's what the Navy's found out. That while they saved personnel at sea, they have had to increase costs and personnel at intermediate level, costs at depot level. And it's like the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The driver who picks up a problem, like that tire, for example, I don't know what it costs Prime to change that tire in outbound, but I guarantee it's significantly less than it is on the road. And that's if I had, that's if I had a spare on the road. And most of our trailers do. But if you had to buy a new tire out of pocket and have it changed on the road, significantly more than just getting it changed at outbound. That's just one little example. So I share all this with you because I still don't want people to be alarmed that Too Simple is making strides. I think they're onto something, but I don't feel like my job's in jeopardy. And if you're like, oh, I'm thinking about coming into this business, and I want to do this for 20 years, 30 years, I really don't think your job is going to be in jeopardy. Your job might look a little bit different, but I don't think it's going to be in jeopardy. And I actually think that people that are interested in being mechanics on these trucks would serve themselves well to get familiar with the automation technology and familiar with electric power plants. Kind of think about what guys on the railroad already do, although that's a little bit different. That's diesel driving a generator driving traction motors, but it's kind of analogous. So anyway, I share those things with you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Maybe if you want to do some speculating in new tech, you can buy some Too Simple stock this week, and we'll see where it goes. Maybe that's the answer, right? I'm going to lose my job to tech. If I think I'm going to lose my job to tech, invest in the tech, right? Make money from the scenario or the phenomena that took your job. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all the subscribers. We're slowly ticking up there. You know, we're above 750 subscribers now. So anyway, be safe. Crazy weather everywhere. Although it's really a beautiful day here in North Carolina. It's a little chilly, but that's about it. Bright sunshine, dry roads basically, so it's all good. Anyway, take care and we'll see you next time on Tim Travels.